I think we are letting people in. Okay, we've got some people here. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Glow. My name is Dr. Sarah Ivanhoe, and this is the Glow webinar series that we created to try to offer educational components to you, our Glow audience, who has been eager for information. We've done a few of these live webinars, and I'm really excited tonight to bring Amy Ippoliti with us. I want to tell you a little something about Amy and how special she is to myself and to Glow. I actually met Amy we had both already been teachers, but we were doing another teacher training at Inner Harmony Retreat Center. And we had really like a love at first sight moment. We were like in the van, had like arrived from our flights, kind of bedraggled or whatever. And we got like smushed into this van and I was already complaining about the altitude. And this woman next to me turns to me and she goes, just put these magnets on your head and you're going to feel so much better. Something like this. So I put these magnets on my head. I don't know whether they made me feel better or it was just meeting my new best friend that I've now known for almost 30 years. And just had a really long and wonderful friendship as friends, but also really as teachers. One of the things that I love about Amy is she never sort of stands on, oh, well, I know that or this and that. She's always been willing to learn. And because she's learned so much. And she's one of the people and teachers that I really treasure. Before I kick this over to her, two more really important things. One, Amy has multiple superpowers of which you guys are going to be exposed to in just a few minutes, but I need to point to the picture in her upper right-hand corner. Amy, will you? Because I was going to actually do like a slide on this. This is Amy doing a deep sea dive with like whales and sharks, like doing yoga poses in the ocean. And in case it's not crazy enough, she explained when she was doing all of this that you actually have to do a kumbhaka on the rachika, you have to exhale fully and then go down, because if you hold your breath when you're full, you'll float. So to make yourself sink like this in the corner, she has to exhale fully, jump in the ocean, do a lotus position, and hang out with whales and sharks. I really think that's all anyone needs to know about Amy, but I want to say one quick thing for those of you. Amy is the one who actually brought me to Glow. In a few months, I'll be celebrating my 10-year anniversary with Glow as the content advisor, and Amy was the one that brought me here. Which was really an act of trust and love both ways. And so we're really happy to have her back as a teacher at Glow, and she's been just given such a warm welcome. Tonight, I really pushed Amy into this topic because I want to learn more about it. This is something Amy's been talking to me about for literally decades: nutrition, cross training, women's health, et cetera, et cetera. This is something that's really her area of expertise. So I'm going to hand it over to her. And really quickly, my friends, yes, this is a view only session. We do want you asking questions right when you think of them. So the way to ask questions is on this Zoom session. You'll go to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and click the little Q&A and start writing the questions as soon as she says something that comes to your mind. I will be looking at all the questions while she's talking. And then at the end, we'll have about 15 minutes where I'll do a moderation and I'll read some of these questions out. Thank you all so much. Please give a warm welcome to Amy Ippoliti.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and what a joy to be on a webinar together with you, Sarah. I could probably go on and on about how much I adore Sarah and all the reasons why. We'll do that another time. But yeah, this is a topic that I've long been interested in, nutrition specifically as it relates to yoga. And I actually went to school for it this year, or last year, actually. I started my graduate certificate at Tufts University just so I could really dive into the nutrition science and a little bit about the nutrition industry and all that good stuff. So I would feel a little bit more qualified, if you will, to speak. And so this is really exciting because it's kind of the first time I've actually put my thoughts together specifically into a lecture. I'm hoping it'll be pretty interactive because you'll have lots of questions and whatnot, and we can certainly answer as many of those as we can toward the end. But one of the things before I open up my presentation slides, one of the things I've always thought about yoga that's so interesting is the way in which having a yoga practice makes us more sensitive and aware in our bodies to the point where when we go to the physician, we can describe our symptoms so meticulously. We understand where it hurts in our bodies. It's because we've had that awareness on the mat. And that also extends into what we eat and what we put on our skin and what kinds of household products we use. We tend to be a little bit more on the conscious side of what's going to bring us the most well-being, if you will. And as I've traveled around the world, whenever I land at an airport and the host picks me up for a workshop, I'm always amazed how we eat very similarly. We have similar products at the house. It's just, I can kind of land and feel like, wow, yeah, this person gets it. This person understands eating well or eating for health, or that food is medicine. And it's not all the time, but most yogis tend to be that way. So that is where I feel like yoga has that commonality with all these different wellness ideas, whether that's weight training, whether that's eating differently, whether it's what we put on our food, what we use in our home. We tend to be a little bit more aware. So with that, let's begin our topic today. And I'll just share my screen. So our topic is women's health, yoga, and nutrition. And of course, that's extremely broad. So I tried to narrow it down into what I thought would be most interesting. We could go in so many different directions with this title. But what I thought we would do is, let me see if I can advance this. Hold on one second. Okay. Is talk about the intersection of yoga, nourishment, and the microbiome, so gut health, right? Because movement, nourishment, and the nervous system all influence digestion and our long-term vitality. So yoga shapes how we move and how we regulate stress. It provides the building blocks for health because of that awareness that we talked about. And gut health connects digestion, metabolism, immunity, and mood. Now, what exactly is gut health? So I pose gut health as sort of the foundation in our understanding tonight. And so what do we mean by gut health? I think that gut health has become kind of a buzz term, but what it refers to is if you think of your mouth, right, as the starting point of the outside world to your inside world, right? And there's this tube literally that goes from your mouth all the way down your esophagus. It goes down into the stomach, into your upper intestine, your lower intestine, your colon, and out your butt, right? And when it gets to the intestinal area, especially down by the colon, the lining of the gut is only about 1 cell thick, which means that the outside world is coming in through the mouth and it's connecting to your inside, right? So the outside becomes the inside through that very, very narrow cell wall thick juncture of cells, your gut lining. And then nutrients, of course, pass through the gut lining into the bloodstream. And this is how we nourish ourselves. And the digestive tract is a phenomenally complex, machine. I mean, it's mechanical, it's chemical, it's hormonal. it's fascinating that we can digest food. Like, it blows me away when you learn the anatomy of the digestive tract. You're like, whoa. But what happens is when you get to the lower intestine, the large intestine, and the colon, the what is handling your digestion is not just the peristalsis or the mechanical movement of your GI tract, but it's this host of microbial life. It's an ecosystem that lives within the digestive tract, trillions of organisms that influence your digestion, your metabolism, your immune system, and even your brain function. And these microbes run the show, right? And they are very much connected to what's outside because they're processing what you've taken from outside to inside, and they're digesting it, and they're moving some of it out of the body, and they're taking what is most essential and bringing it into your bloodstream to feed your entire body. And so they are responsible for how we digest and absorb nutrients, how our immune system responds to threats through an immune response or an inflammatory response. It's how our metabolism manages energy and blood sugar. And it also communicates with the brain through the vagus nerve, or what we call the gut-brain axis. So because of all of these far-reaching effects, the internal ecosystem becomes the central driver of whole body health, sitting at the intersection of nutrition, movement, and we'll learn nervous system regulation. Okay, so gut health is going to be influenced in 3 ways. It's going to be influenced by our movement and our yoga practice. So, of course, regular physical activity, whether it's weight training or cardiovascular training or yoga, right, enhances strength. It helps maintain mobility, agility, balance, and it contributes to our overall health and vitality at all stages of life. So when the brain is connecting to the gut and you're feeling better, you're feeling that, so the endorphins of having worked out, or the endorphins of having been in a yoga practice, the gut or the brain is like, I feel good. The gut's like, yeah, we feel good too. And there's this sort of ease that arises. So the gut feels it when you work out. It's a strange thing. They respond to everything you do, right? So also, like, we are about 5 pounds of these microbes in our whole body, right? Like, they weigh that much, even though they're so tiny, right? Okay, the gut's also influenced by what we eat. Huge. We feed our gut bugs, right? We don't eat for ourselves. We eat for them. So that's a really huge mindset shift. So a balanced diet that's rich in essential nutrients is going to support cellular repair, prevent inflammation, boost energy levels, and improve our digestion and elimination. Now, you may have heard of probiotics, prebiotics. Okay, so probiotics are the actual intestinal flora, or microbes, or little gut bugs. You can see them on the left of the slide there. And so those are the probiota. But the prebiotic is their food source. And we're going to learn about that a little bit later. And so we want to provide them with a lot of food that they can eat. And that's prebiotic, resistant starches, foods, etc., fibers, so that when they eat, they get happy and they reproduce and they make more of themselves. So, and we also want them to be diverse in their community. We don't want the same kind of microbes. We want a diverse community of microbes. So when we eat different things, we get different microbes coming to the table to eat, and then they get happy and they reproduce. So what we eat is super important. And then our nervous system regulation is really important as well. So practices like yoga, inner work, meditation, all are going to support our mental well-being, which regulates our nervous system and helps prevent chronic disease as we age. But in terms of the gut, again, that connection between the brain and the gut, the signals go back and forth. And when the nervous system is relaxed, we have rest and digest, the gut is happy. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more now about the gut-brain axis. So there is a nerve, the vagus nerve, which connects the brain to our microbiome in our gut. And they communicate constantly through the vagus nerve. These signals that are set off by, I have the little gut bugs down at the bottom there. They're like, woo, they're all talking, but they are sending signals to the brain, and the brain is also talking through the nervous system to those bugs and telling it what's happening. So when you have the right mix of intestinal flora, they're going to send messages up and down the vagus nerve. They might say, particularly when they're diverse and they have a good mix, they're going to say, all is well down here. We're getting really good food. Everything's cool. You can stand down, immune system, and nervous system, you can relax. Okay. Similarly, when we practice yoga, our brain says, all is well, right? I'm chilled out. I'm relaxed. I'm going into that deep relaxation and shavasana, right? Hey, gut bugs, you're good, right? So you can rest and you can digest. You can use all your energy for digestion right now. So a calm nervous system supports better digestion, and a happy gut equals a happy brain. So what is the opposite of all that? The opposite is inflammation. So if you're eating poor foods, or you're eating foods that create gut permeability, or you're eating foods that are really tough to digest, or you're eating a lot of processed foods or ultra processed foods and not the prebiotics that the gut bugs love, right? Then all is not well. They're going to send a message up the vagus nerve to the brain that says, ooh, we really didn't get enough to eat. We're kind of low on numbers down here. We're short staffed, right? And so we need to create an inflammatory response right now in order to handle this gut permeability that's occurred. There is a hole, or like the juncture of the gut wall has actually gotten a little too big. Bacteria is getting into the bloodstream. We need to mount an immune response. And then what happens is, instead of your bloodstream going around and sort of like going, oh, let me work on making your joint healthy and your shoulder joint and your knee joint healthy, right? It's like, red alert, we've got bacteria in the bloodstream. And it creates this inflammatory response. And that's why when you are practicing yoga and you get hurt, or something gets tweaked, or a joint doesn't feel good, oftentimes it's because of nutrition. It's because of diet that has caused an inflammatory response, instead of the gut bugs going, oh yeah, we're not short staffed. We're getting what we need, right? So you're eating for your gut microbiome. You're not eating for yourself, because they're the dudes and the dudettes that are getting around and making everything healthy in your body through the messaging of the brain. So what I have found personally in the last, I would say it's now 7 years, I have been on a sort of like gut healthy eating. So I eat for a lack of inflammation. I eat for my gut bugs. Okay. And since I've done that, I can tell you I've had far less joint pain in my 50s than I did in my 40s, or even in my 30s, or in my 20s. I kid you not. So there were times when my shoulder was so, early stage arthritic that I couldn't even push up into wheel for like 3 years. Changing to eat for my gut rather than for myself, within days of changing the diet, right? Pushing up and wheel, no problem. Okay. Far less issues. So inflammation not only causes joint issues, which are problematic, obviously, for yoga, but it can cause skin issues. It can cause migraines. It can cause a lot of mucus. Sometimes when you wake up and you have really sandy eyes, that's a sign of inflammation, right? Like I have a lot of, like I feel it. So I know that maybe I've eaten something that didn't agree with me. I'll get those little sandy eyes. Also, of course, getting sick more often is definitely a sign of some inflammation. Trying to think what else, headaches. So all of those things. All right, let me switch up here. So a couple more things. So yoga is going to offer us tools to regulate the nervous system and support digestive health. Now, the best, or I don't know if it's the best, but for me, what has been game changing is restorative yoga. So this type of yoga is when we lay on props to support ourselves in states of relaxation, deep, deep relaxation. So if you've ever been in a really long shavasana, you know that sense of like you're just going under, like you're not asleep, but you're just going down. And your body just feels so effortless and heavy. And this is when our parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest and digest state, switches on. So by propping ourselves up in these positions of relaxation and support, we allow our body to drop into that parasympathetic nervous system state. And so that will be very supportive of your gut microbiome. Now, breathing practices also help reduce our stress hormones. I have a little lecture on stress hormones that you can watch if you're interested in that on Glow. We have improved nervous system regulation supporting our sleep, digestion, and hormonal balance. And I want to speak a little bit to sleep because when you're in a restorative pose, you may be in there up to 20 minutes or a shavasana that's more than 5 minutes. And when you drop into that state of deep relaxation, there's a way in which later on in the day, when you actually go to bed, the body remembers what it felt like to be in the parasympathetic nervous system state. And it's like, oh my God, I love it. And it goes to sleep in the most deep and wonderful way. So the more I practice restorative yoga, the more I find that sleep, it's like my head hits the pillow and it remembers what it felt like. And then my sleep is really deep. So for what it's worth. And of course, the gut needs to rest as well, right? The gut needs good sleep to be healthy and to reproduce and to make more of itself and all that good stuff. Okay. Another aspect of helping our gut is being a human that is connected to the sun. Okay. So the sun is the life giver, right? It's the life giver of everything on the planet, right? So plants, animals, ocean environments, forest environments, photosynthesis, right? Everything depends on the sun. And natural light from the sun helps us regulate our internal clock, right? So, and also vitamin D, which is something that we can synthesize from sunlight, plays a critical role in calcium absorption, supporting our bone health, muscle function, immunity, reducing osteoporosis risk as we age. As women in particular, we have trouble with osteoporosis. However, modern life keeps us indoors, right? So most people spend about 90% of their time inside and only 10% of the time outside. Now, a lot of us know that UVB rays, so that's the light that kind of comes late morning into midday, is required for vitamin D synthesis. So in other words, like if you're just watching the sunrise, you're not going to be able to get vitamin D. You got to wait till the UVB comes out. And so when the sun is higher in the sky. However, sunscreen, but also avoiding the sun constantly is going to block vitamin D synthesis. So it requires that you're eating foods that are rich in vitamin D, there are not that many of them, or supplementing with vitamin D. And it's always better to get your vitamins, right, from actual food, not supplements if you can. Now, another thing I've recently discovered is that early day sunlight, so that's being exposed to the sunrise so that your clock kind of switches on and knows what time it is, right? What time of day it is. So I'll go out in the morning without glasses on and I'll look at the sunrise. whenever I possibly can. But about an hour and 15 minutes after the sun rises, there is a UVA rise period. It's about an hour and a half. And if you can get out at that time, it's really healthy for not only regulating your circadian rhythm, but also the happy hormones, and it helps your skin. This is key. It helps your skin gradually build tolerance for when you're exposed to UVB rays. But if you never go out at that time, and then all of a sudden you just go out midday, or even at 10 o'clock in the morning and get the UVB, you're going to burn. But if you spend some time outdoors with glasses off, because all light goes through the eyes, your skin will actually be prepared. It will build up some tolerance. And I know like folks with Irish descent, really super white skin, and they never burn at all, even in UVB light, because they go out for about an hour. They'll walk with their glasses off, and they'll expose their skin to that UVA light, which is not as dangerous. And then they build the tolerance. So again, if you get that morning light, you're also going to signal that in the morning is time for cortisol cortisol levels to rise. And then at night is time for melatonin levels to increase. So that will put you to sleep, right? Now, sunglasses and indoor lighting, limited daylight, that all disrupts the light signals, which affect sleep, hormonal balance, metabolic health, etc. It's part of why I have these yellow tinted clip-ons right now, because I have a bright light so you can see me, but it is actually nighttime outside. The sun has set, right? So I want to make sure that my melatonin builds so that I will actually have that sleep drive to go to bed at a decent hour. All right, so regular daylight supports vitamin D synthesis, sleep, mood, metabolic regulation, and there have been studies done that say that increased levels of vitamin D means that you will also increase your gut microbial diversity. That's why I have little gut bugs down there. Okay, so macronutrients. I'm going to kind of buzz through these slides quickly because I'm sure most of you know what these are. But macronutrients in the context of yoga is to understand how some of the trends are that discourage you from eating certain macronutrients and more of others. And I just want to dispel some of the myths. So let's just review what they are. It's protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And of course, fiber, I always kind of include as a fourth macronutrient, even though it's not a macronutrient. Fiber is just so important for the gut. All right, and you can see in the picture here, we've got avocado as the fat. We have some millet grain as a carbohydrate, and we have mushroom as the protein there. So we'll start off with protein. So this supports muscle preservation as we age and metabolic health. So a lot of you know about sarcopenia. As we turn 30 years old, we start to lose muscle, hand over fist. And so one way to preserve muscle is to make sure that your protein intake is pretty high. We also encourage heavy lifting, so lifting heavy. However, protein these days is heavily or even obsessively encouraged for muscle preservation. I think it's a little out of hand. Like I was just at the Natural Products Expo, and they're just like shoving protein into everything, into cereal, into pudding, and even into water, like protein water. I'm just like, okay, this is a little too far. So it's an essential nutrient, no doubt. It's essential for muscle repair and maintenance. So also when you stretch a lot with yoga, you're going to be making little micro tears. Protein is what's going to help you heal those little tears up and then also build muscle when you're weight bearing with your body weight or lifting weights. So it's also important for women preserving muscle as they age. And of course, it works best in combination with resistance training. So if you are training with weights, which I hope you are, you will want to have a lot of protein to support that weightlifting. But I'm also going to say you're going to need carbs to help support you in lifting weight as well. So carbohydrates are the body's primary fuel source for movement. It's sugar, it's energy. And often carbs are demonized. And here we are, super active. We're lifting weights, we're doing yoga, right? And then we're like cutting out the carbs because we think it's going to make us, gain weight or something like that. I can tell you that if you are active and you're not eating carbs, you are not going to recover. You probably will sleep poorly and you will not be fueling your muscles so that you can move. So I really do encourage eating carbs and not demonizing them. So carbs in my book are not canceled. All right. I love them. They provide energy for the muscles and the brain. I mean, talk about brain fog. And people are like, oh, I'm going through perimenopause. I have so much brain fog. It's because everyone's on these keto diets, which are not sustainable. Okay. You can do it for a very short period, but it's not something you want to be doing long term. You want to be bringing in carbohydrates. They support recovery and exercise performance. And whole food carbohydrate sources also provide fiber and micronutrients. So I have some of my favorite carbs here. I love a good sourdough bread. I love purple sweet potato. I love a good gluten-free pasta, and I love millet. I have it in 2 slides, as you can tell. Okay, healthy fats. These are often feared because they contain more calories per gram, yet they are essential for supporting hormonal balance, cellular health. They're important for hormone production, brain function, heart health, nervous system health, and they help fat-soluble vitamins or absorb fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. So super important to eat healthy fats. So I've pictured some here. My favorites: olives, avocado, good oils like olive oil, sesame oil, avocado oil, and of course, macadamia nuts. Okay, and then let's get into fiber. So everyone wants to poop better. Yoginis definitely want to have better elimination for their practice. There's nothing worse than getting on the mat and you have not had the main event, right? Like if you've been on yoga retreat, especially, you just like got up really early, didn't get a chance. It's the worst. We want to have ourselves feel kind of empty when we get on the mat. Now, fiber and hydration are very closely intertwined. So as we age, our thirst signals become less reliable and it increases our risk of dehydration. And low fluid intake contributes to constipation, which is more common as we age. And of course, we don't want to be constipated as yogis, as we've already established. So most adults, here's the problem, consume far less fiber than is recommended. They eat about 14 grams versus the 25 to 30 grams that we want to be eating. I'm closer to like 44 or 45. So fiber is going to work the best with adequate hydration. If you're eating, you all of a sudden go on like a fiber, like you just get on a fiber banger or whatever, make sure you're drinking tons of water because water helps together with fiber bowel mobility. And our digestion slows with age. So we want to make sure we're hydrating and having our roughage, right? It also is going to support the gut microbiome health. We talked about this a little bit already because this is what our gut bugs eat is fiber. Okay, it's also going to help blunt blood sugar. So if you have something sweet with fiber, it's less likely to spike your blood glucose than if you did not have fiber first. And protein also helps with that, by the way. I love also fiber for cholesterol reduction. You know why? Because some of the bile from the fats that you eat that could cause, like saturated fat and that kind of thing, it will cling to the fiber and then exit out the body through your poop. So it actually helps to lower cholesterol. Prioritizing whole plant foods and consistent hydration is going to help keep digestion regular and support overall metabolic and mental health. Now, here are some prebiotic fiber ideas. These are some of my favorite. I put pictures of them, but you can read the list there, or the list. Tubers, sweet potatoes, rutabagas, all the root vegetables. The chicory family is radicchio and endive, artichokes, sunchokes. Pressure cooked legumes are going to make them more digestible. So chickpeas and beans and that kind of thing. Basil seed is my number one recommendation as an alternative to chia seed, much more high in fiber, higher in micronutrients, and more digestible. And it operates the same way and even hydrates faster than chia. So I love basil seeds. Flax seeds, jicama, cassava, millet, and sorghum are my favorite whole grains. Teff is another whole grain I love. And okra, you gotta either love it or you hate it. And then I want to talk a little bit about micronutrients and food diversity. So if you think about, like, on the slide here, you're going to see herbs and spices. So that's a way of bringing in a diverse amount of plants, not always eating the same kind of lettuce every day or the same kind of vegetable every day, but maybe eat those same vegetables every day, but spice them up differently. Add a lot of herbs and spices to your foods, and that is going to increase the diversity of what you eat, therefore bringing more different kinds of gut bugs to the table. So vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients all support the body's biochemical process and feed the microbiome. So we want to think of colorful foods, foods that contain different phytonutrients. And this, of course, is not unlike how our movement practice will get stale or even unsafe, right? If we do the same thing daily. Like, I would never want to do leg day 2 days in a row. I don't want to do a super intense vinyasa practice 2 days in a row. I might need like more of a restorative practice on the off day, right? So varying it up in our movement is the same kind of concept here. All right, now gut health and food quality. So food quality can influence the health of the microbiome. So if we are eating ultra processed foods that lack fiber and diversity, not so good for the microbiome. Agricultural chemicals can deeply disrupt the microbial balance and cause harm to the gut lining. So it can actually kill off our good gut bugs and harm the lining. So I always advocate for choosing organic. The seal you can see in the lower right-hand corner, the seal makes it easy to know if something is certified organic, meaning it doesn't have antibiotics or chemical inputs in the farming. Okay, and I want to make a caveat here with everything I've already shared and what I'm about to share, that food access, right, and the practical realities of getting access to beautiful foods like this and organically grown and certified foods is not always easy, and it's also not always affordable. And getting access to fresh food can be challenging, particularly if you're living in an area of food apartheid or food deserts, as they're sometimes called. And so I want to just make sure that we're being inclusive of all, like, public health is a really huge issue. And we want to make sure we're getting access to the people that need food, right? And it's just something that a lot of folks that I work with are actively working on in their local communities, but it isn't easy. So some of the strategies, if it's hard to get access to food for whatever reason, is using frozen vegetables and fruits, which might be available at a supermarket. Cooking with dried beans and legumes. So if you pressure cook them, soak them, pressure cook them, that's a really affordable way to eat good protein sources and fiber sources. Buying seasonal produce when possible. Now, one thing with that is if you do live in an area that has a farmer's market, but it's really expensive, is if you go at the very end of the market time, a lot of the farmers are giving away produce or at least selling it for half the price. So you're getting organic food or locally grown food that is more nutrient dense, but for half the price or even for nothing at all. Also, volunteering at farms, they will often send you home with a bushel of goods, right, or feed you a meal. So if you can pull weeds or harvest, fields in the fall, right? They will feed you. And remember that even small improvements in diet can support better health. So we have to start somewhere. Also, growing herbs in containers or sprouting in the kitchen, if you can Google videos on that, is a way of getting fresh food right in your own home or on your patio or your windowsill. Okay, so now let's talk about the Mediterranean diet. I decided I wanted to just feature this because it's an evidence-backed diet that has stood the test of time. It's, scientists have studied it. It's in all the blue zones, right? Or many of them are in the Mediterranean, and so it's a very plant-forward, I would say, a plant-forward way of eating. Whole grains, moderate protein. It has a high intake of vegetables, fruits, legumes, and herbs. It has all these beautiful healthy fats from olives, olive oil, nuts, seeds. And of course, that kind of intake is going to support microbiome diversity. And of course, when you have diversity and a healthy microbiome, you're going to reduce systemic inflammation, which is going to help your yoga practice, like hands down, your skin, everything, your hair. And of course, it emphasizes minimally processed foods and minimal refined sugars. And it's also associated with a lower risk of cardiovascular disease and cognitive decline. So it's a diet that I really recommend. Functional foods, speaking of expensive foods that not everybody can afford, unless of course you have access to a farm or you're maybe growing it in a pot on your terrace, right? But functional foods, often high in phytochemicals, provide benefits beyond basic nutrition. So this includes fermented foods like yogurt, coconut yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut. You can actually get a whole head of cabbage and make yourself your own jar of kraut, and the cabbage will probably cost you $2 or $3. So you can make your own functional foods. Berries and polyphenol rich foods. So if you look for that dark color, those are called black raspberries in the picture there, but that dark black purple color is going to be really high in polyphenols and anthocyanins. Olive oil and healthy fats is considered a functional food. Mushrooms, mushroom extracts, green tea. So I really stand by the quote, "Let food be thy medicine." You will be amazed at what these functional foods do in terms of preventing disease, giving you more vitality and all sorts of amazing benefits. All right, so if we were to distill this into okay, how do we take action, right, on some of the ideas that we presented today? There would be 5 things I would say that would support long-term resilience and health. And that is to eat a diverse range of plant foods. So think about when you're at the supermarket or you're at the farmer's market or you're ordering food online, can you pick things that you don't normally eat? Like, do you put pine nuts or sesame seeds on top of things, right? That's it's something I don't always think to do. Or remember to put that spoonful of kraut on top, right? So think about I had so much kale last week. Let's try asparagus. It's spring. Let's put asparagus into the diet. Eat locally too. Eat what's seasonal. And also include adequate protein. Always start with what am I going to have as my protein? So you can build your macronutrients around the protein because that's going to give you satiety. It's going to make you feel full. And then, put the other macros on top. Prioritize fiber-rich foods and hydration. So again, go to that prebiotic slide and think how can I get that into my diet? Because that's a carbohydrate nutrient. A lot of times the fiber will also be a carb. So make sure you're putting that in as opposed to white bread, right? That's a carb also, but make it a more nutrient dense, fiber rich carb. Okay. Spend time outdoors in natural light, preferably in community. So go out for a walk with your glasses off with a friend, right? You can still have a hat on to shade your face, but take your glasses off. Get that light inside your eyes. Do it with friends, because when you're with friends, you share each other's microbiome. Your holobiome is shared. So it's really good to meet and hug lots of people because you're exchanging microbes. And then, of course, keep using yoga and yoga practices to regulate stress. And so, some key takeaways, just a closing thought. Regular practice deepens our awareness, like I said at the very beginning, an awareness of body signals, satiety, how we move, what we eat, how we respond to stress, what we choose to put in and around our body, right? It shapes healthier choices, supporting our digestion, our nervous system balance, and sustainable movement, safe movement. And of course, when all of these systems work together, they are good for the gut and they create the foundation for lasting vitality and resilience. And with that, I want to open it up to questions. I'm sure a ton came in. It looks like a bunch came in.
So many came in. Amy, my goodness, that was
Are
just
we in trouble?
incredible in really the best way. And I was just talking with some of our Glow people, are trying to figure out how to even get to all of these. And what I love is that you really integrated these ideas. I think what some of us experience is that we like learned about yoga and then we learned about nutrition and then we learned about this.
Mm,
And all of these things feel really disconnected and we feel like we are on our own to integrate, or if I may, yoke them all together. And
saw what you did
and it can,
there.
yeah, it can feel really overwhelming and confusing. And I just really love that you planted, you put all of this together and sort of we can step away from it and really see a big picture. So I'm going to dive into some questions that I'm going to give you some time with, and then I think we might do like a little bit of like a lightning round depending on
Okay.
how we do. This first one I'm actually really interested in. It's actually the latest question that came up. I'm going to read it through. It's from a woman named Natalie, because I've heard of different things on this. What has been your experience with food combining? I've read and experimented with eating only certain kinds of foods like fruit on their own for ease of digestion without anything additional like yogurt or nut butter. But a nutritionist advised me that naked carbs are not a good idea. I was advised to combine nut butter with apples, for example, or yogurt with bananas. Do you have any thoughts on that? Seems like our bodies would do better with less kinds of food eaten at the same time. Um, what do you think about food combining?
I love that question because, yes, there are certain things you can do to avoid blood sugar spiking. And one of them is eating protein and fiber instead of just having one, like a carb. Like if you're like sitting at your desk and you're like, oh, I feel a little tired, and you go to your pantry and you grab a cookie, your blood sugar is going to go through the roof, right?
I love it when it
Which
does
isn't,
that.
yeah. Oh, um, but if you were to be disciplined and have a little bit of, a little bit of protein, fat, fiber, etc., before you had, and you ate the carb afterwards, your blood sugar would definitely do better. But here's what's interesting with food combining. When I learned about the GI tract, the anatomy of the GI tract and the chemical reactions and all the stuff, that thing can handle anything. Like it can handle however you combine your foods. Like don't worry about getting indigestion because you ate fruit after you had carbs or something like that, or fat or whatever. You eat for how you feel good. Like I personally love to have a salad at the beginning of a meal. It just feels better than if I put the salad on top of like a huge heavy meal. But your digestion can handle it. That's what I learned in school.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Um, Question about the thoughts on the 30-30, three suggestion for women, the 30 protein, 30 fiber, and three servings of probiotic per day.
Of probiotic.
Yes, she says, this is from Susie. What are your thoughts on the 30-30-3 suggestion for women? Example, 30 grams of protein in the first meal of the day, 30 grams of fiber during the day, and 3 servings of probiotics per day.
I've not heard much about that, but it sounds really good. I
Yeah,
support that.
I one thing I liked that you brought up, we talked about this the other night, was about this Mediterranean diet, and the value of that is that it has sort of stood the test of time with a lot of these um, other diets that sort of like come and go, and also like heavy restrictions. It's more in
Hmm.
case you can't like follow an exact thing every day.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so, more. In your opinion, which dietary approach is most beneficial for overall health? We talked about this: a fully plant-based diet, one that incorporates plant and animal foods based, and what factors most influence your thinking: nutrition, sustainability, ethics, or something else?
It's going to be really dependent on the person and what they feel their body needs. And the good news with yoga is that you're going to be more in tune with your body. So you're going to know. For me personally, I eat very, very plant forward. I do eat some animal products. I don't eat meat. Um, but the sourcing for those animal products has to be impeccable because of the sustainability, the ethics, the morals that I personally feel for myself. So it really is dependent on the person. But I do encourage, if you are someone that requires animal products, that you really source well, that you are not supporting industrial agriculture, which is basically ruining the planet, and it's not humane for animals. So, but I'm not one of those like stone cold vegan, like militant vegans either, even though I really support veganism and a lot for a lot of reasons.
Are there cookbooks, recipe websites you recommend, simple meals to follow? Again, it's like you can see all these things that are good for you, and then you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with all those?
Yeah. Gosh, websites, I'd have to do a follow up with all the links, but cookbook wise, I love Ottolenghi. So I don't know
Yeah.
if you've heard it, but just he does
Mm-mm.
such beautiful stuff with vegetables, like taking a whole head of cauliflower and roasting it, like slow roasting it, so and making these beautiful tahini sauces, like for on top. It was just absolutely
Mm.
stunning because he brings in such a diversity of plant ingredients. So I really love um, that cookbook. But there's others. There's definitely others. I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. I'm like
Yeah.
my bookshelf's right behind me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe we could
Well,
make a list or something. Yeah.
so I was gonna say, so for everyone watching and even for people who didn't, we send out the link to this recording, and then we also include all the things that we forgot we wanted to say. So any suggestions or things that you want to follow up with, and somebody's also requested the slides as well. So we kind of do all of that. While it's in my mind, Amy did for Glow the first and still to this date most comprehensive restorative program that we have on the platform, hands down. Uh, I know that you're my
I love
favorite, but
that program.
we don't have anything comparable. It's really
Mhm.
it's not for the, oh, let me just do whatever. It really teaches you about the whole way that the system evolved. You explain why this needs to be held in this way, and it really breaks down all the different stuff. So we'll also send a link to all of you about the restorative program. Amy doesn't just kind of do relaxing yoga. She's as well trained as anybody, like certified in that system through Judith Hanson Lassiter, who developed restorative yoga, etc. So it's a really very specific practice, and Amy has one of the best for us. Let's see.
Thank you.
Couple of other fun questions. Okay, little bit of a lightning round here. Um, The What's your perspective on creatine?
Creatine is one of the most researched supplements.
Really?
Yeah, it's had a lot of research and heavily researched and like it's good. Creatine's, I take it, it's amazing. Make sure you dose it properly to based on your size, but it's really helped me tremendously with building muscle and keeping it, and also recovering. The recovery is like I don't get DOMS anymore, delayed muscle onset soreness. I don't get it anymore, and I believe that's from creatine. And
Favorite
also eating
fibers?
carbs.
I
Also
was just
eating
about to
carbs.
say.
Love my carbs. They're not
I'm so
canceled.
glad you included that. That's great. Favorite fibers?
Oh, well, the slide says it all. You might have asked that question before I showed the slide, maybe.
Yeah.
But sweet potato is just like my ultimate.
Oh, right. My question was, what are tubers?
Oh, tubers are basically like root vegetables.
Okay. You're like,
Yeah.
tubers. I'm like, I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah.
Okay. So like beets or parsnips or something like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And
Uh,
sunchoke is a
ooh, I
tuber.
love a
Hmm.
sunchoke.
Gotta eat
Um,
like only a little bit of sunchoke or you will be farting like nobody's business.
that's not good.
Hmm.
What do you think
Tasty,
of
but ooh, careful.
collagen protein?
Collagen's interesting. You know, everyone thinks that if you take collagen, you're going to create collagen. And you're just basically taking in, and your body just looks at that and goes, oh, this is an amino acid. Let's, break this down as protein. So I don't really believe that it like makes you have better skin and you suddenly have collagen filler in your cheeks again and your hair is super shiny. Like it's basically protein. So, if you need more protein, you could put it in your smoothie and stuff like that. But I don't really, there's not a lot of science suggesting that it's going to help you with, like making collagen just because you're eating it.
I know. Um, when I was young, I don't have any thyroid problems now, but I had a really severe thyroid problem when I was in my 20s, early 20s.
Yeah, I remember you
Um,
telling me that.
yeah, and so the doctors prescribed me this, thyroid stuff. And then I was like, okay, well, what if I get something natural? So I went to this was even like before Whole Foods was a thing. I was like, hey, okay, for my thyroid, they're like, oh, well, this is a thyroid, like an animal thyroid, something, something. And I started taking the supplement and it didn't do anything. And then I was kind of like, why isn't this doing anything? And I don't remember who was there like, well, just because you're eating a thyroid doesn't mean it's going to make your thyroid go. Like if you eat a chicken wing, you're not going to sprout a chicken wing. I was like, oh, okay. As you said earlier, our digestive tract is really powerful and it will just digest most things. So, um,
Hmm.
okay, let's see here. People want to know a little bit more about, speak to the blue light and the nervous system. How many hours from sunrise are we in UVA to UVB? And if you could just speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. So sunrise, there are actually apps that you can use. There's one called circadian, I think it's called. And then there's another one called My Circadian, and it will tell you when the sun is rising wherever you are. It'll use location services to figure out where you are in the world and when the sun is rising. And then it will tell you when the UVA rise is. And it is approximately an hour after sunrise for about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. There's this period where the UVB is not up yet. And it's a magical time to be out walking around. And if you can, that make that your hiking time or your walking time, very, very powerful. Now, blue light and the nervous system, that's an interesting question. So your body clock, your master clock is actually through the eyes. So blue light isn't bad. It's just we don't really want blue light at night because your body interprets that and your nervous system interprets that as, oh, it's 12 noon right now, right? And then you wonder why you're a night owl, right? So I used to stay up and, till 1 a.m. because I just loved life, but I realized it's because I had screens going, and it wasn't until I started blocking the light with blue blockers, or really dimming the light is another way you can do it in your house, is just, keep things dim after sunset. Then the nervous system understands that it's not the middle of the day and it's nighttime, time to produce melatonin and stop producing cortisol. Hope that helps.
Yeah, just sort of addendum to that. What do you think is an optimal time of day for restorative yoga?
Oh my God, anytime.
I had a feeling you said, but
But like whenever you can get it in. I mean, if you have a lunch break and you can even like lay on the couch for 20 minutes or put your legs up the couch or something like that, for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, that's great.
excellent. Well, we are at 7:02. I just want to give you, is there anything that's just sort of popped into your mind that you want to follow up on or say before we wrap out?
Well, just, yeah, if you ever have questions or whatever, DM me on Instagram, or let Glow know what other topics you might be interested in. Like, this was very broad. So hopefully, if something really inspired you of one of the topics, we can like kind of, slice that out and really dig into it. And any other topics you're interested in, I'm always game to hear what our members and folks practicing yoga are into. And just
Excellent.
get outside
Yeah.
and get that natural light, diversify your diet, and keep up your yoga practice.
Excellent. So, um, we've been really interested, Glow's been really interested in moving into the area of nutrition for some time, and we've been giving a lot of consideration to how we approach it. And I think you brought up so many things today, and while you gave us so much information, I feel like we all have now maybe have more questions that are all in our mind about it. So for everybody listening, if you have specific things, if you want to know more about nutrition and life stages, nutrition's really specific to women. If you have a weightlifting practice, how to supplement that, etc. Um, Also, just a little bit on, like injury recovery, things like this, I think are really all connected and stuff that Amy can really speak to. Um, Amy, this was really a treat. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us.
Thank you so much
We'll,
for the opportunity
yeah,
to talk about this thing that I'm so interested in. So it was really a pleasure, really enjoyable for me.
I think it's also fun for us to see how we all have different phases of our own lives and we all go through different areas of interest. And what's great to have you as a teacher is that you've taken these different areas of interest and you're putting them together for us. So thank you for that. For everyone watching, we will be doing another one of these next month with Ivory Jenkins. It's going to be on spring rituals and renewal. It'll be April 9th at 6 p.m. So please join us for that. And thank you all so much for the evening. I want a big thank you to Lindsay and Kim who put this all together for us. And yeah, snaps. And we'll see you next time. Thank you guys.